Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of Stop, Look, and Listen. I'm your host, LeTroy Gardner. This week, we have a very special guest, someone that has been very instrumental in delivering countless interviews to the good old boys and Stop, Look, and Listen over the years. I mean, guests ranging from Wadeen, from Rough Riders, Melba Moore, Patrick, the late great James M. Tume, Stetsasonic, Patty Jackson, Eric Nolan from the OJs. I mean, the list goes on and on. We have the founder and president of Double Exposure, also a model and an author. We have Angelo Ellerbee. Welcome to the show, Angelo.
Hey man, LeTroy, thank you so much for the support that you've been giving to Double Exposure and to me over decades.
Right.
Man, I appreciate you. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate your viewers and your listeners for supporting you as well as supporting the firm Double Exposure. Thank you.
No, likewise. Like I can always count on you to reach out, and I'm like, wow, um, you have this client, and then I'll say I want to interview them, and you're like, well, Kevin, line it up. So yeah, it's very much appreciated. You know, a kid growing up in on the coast of South Carolina to be able to talk to some of the people that I grew up watching on BET or listening to the radio. It's a dream come true.
It's your kind of outlets that gives the affordability to my clients. So I just say bravo to you, and I thank you for once again for just being quite supportive to us.
Right. So, like I just mentioned, you're also an author, and you have Before I Let You Go, your fourth novel dropping in August. I think it's available right now for pre-order.
Yes.
Um, just talk about that. Give us a quick synopsis into Before I Let You Go and why this is potentially your last go round writing a book.
I first want to say I'm just so thankful to God for the support and the love that He's given to me over these 67 years. I was being diagnosed to have cancer, and well, that's not true anymore. We found out other other situations, and when I heard about the cancer, I wanted to leave some jewels. I wanted to open up the treasure chest of my mind, my heart, my body, and my soul. And I wanted to write a book because I believe that my people, people who look like me, have been cheated out of the chances of life. And I wanted to give them a plate, a template to my life and what I had to go through in order to get to where the apex of my success. I never ever thought about getting on an elevator or an escalator to reach the apex of my success. I decided to take the steps. And taking the steps, I was able to take year by year, step by step, and acquire the knowledge and the purpose and the reasons for me being there. So, this book was and is not just about the music industry, it's about you. It's about that domestic violence victim, the incarcerated victim, the HIV and AIDS victim. It's about life, and it tells you if I can go through this and be successful, anybody can go through this and be successful. I believe in chances in life. I don't believe in closing doors to anyone. I believe that if God gives me the chance and the will to do what I have to do, everybody deserves in winning this. And it's not about winning every race. It's about staying in the race. Eventually you have to win. And that's what this book is about, is giving people chances and being able to identify where their situations are and how they can overcome and how they can get to the apex of their success. Um, that's the true nature of this book. I talk about the entertainment industry a little, but I also talk about the support and falling romantically in love with who you are to reach your goals and to believe in who you are, and be original in who you are, not being afraid to take the necessary steps for greatness of life. To be great is one thing, to be greater is another thing, and then to be the greatest is the ultimate and the goal. And I
Hmm.
think my people deserve to have the opportunity to be the greatest in their particular careers.
Right. Wow, that's so powerful. Before I dig further into like your journey, so where are we at with the cancer?
I'm good. I'm very, very
Okay.
good. I'm very good.
Hmm.
We have there was a misdiagnosis of my sickness. There is things being worked out now, but I think I'll be around for a little bit at this stage of the game. So God is always good, and that's why it was so important for me to write this book. Not because I was fearful or that I was scared, but you know, I really think it's really important that we as people of color share and become mentors. I was going to take
Hmm.
all of my wisdom and all of my trials and tribulations with me. I needed to
Right.
leave it. I needed to leave a treasure there for my people so they can grow and they can learn and they can develop and they can be encouraged. That's what this book is about, is encouraging them to go against the odds,
Hmm.
to be themselves, to be original. I don't like anything
Right.
that is duplicated.
Right.
I like originality. I don't. We have enough. We have great Beyonces, a great Beyonce, a great Whitney Houston. We don't need another one of them. What we need is the originality. We need to follow and be our own leaders. You know, many years ago, there was a gentleman by the name of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad who spoke truth for me. And the truth was, he said that our community, people who were black and brown, needed to have their own. They needed to have their own farms. They needed to have their own institutions. They needed to have, that's what this is, for me, is about. It's people, my people, having their own and giving them the opportunities or the wisdom to feel good about life and to be a conqueror. I want them to
Hmm.
conquer, not fearful of anything, just conquer. So many people want to open up business. Oh, I got to go to the bank. I got to do. No. If you really believe in you and you love you, because I opened up my business with no money. My business was built from the basement of my mother's house in Newark, New Jersey. I took the dining room table out of the garage, got a one line phone, and I began to develop what was double exposure. And it's like taking chances. God gives you these chances, but you also have to take the necessary steps to get to the ultimate of where you really want to be. And that's my beginning. So, and I wanted to leave these little jewel drops to young people who were debating what they wanted to do with life and was very, very scared to begin or did not know if they can exceed in the next level of what they wanted to do. It's not about the money. It's not about, I don't like partnerships. I don't like banks. So I go back to what my mother did. We hustled to make our money. We did whatever we needed to do to get the foundation of where we wanted to be. And the rest of it was in God's hands.
Hmm. All right. Well, let's cover this foundation. Like you said, you grew up in the brick city of Newark, New Jersey. Just talk about your youth and growing up and graduating from the School of Hard Knocks.
I grew up in the city of Newark to an incredible parent, my mother, Eva Ellerbee, who was my life and gave me reasons for to live and to exist. My mother always said to me, you know, you're great because you're my son, but I want you to be greater at what you choose to do in your life. And then I want you to be the greatest. My mother would tell me from, oh my God, from 9 years old to about 17 years old every morning. Yeah, before I left that house, she would say, do you know I love you? Do you know how much I love you? And that for me was a motivation to know that I was being loved. She never, ever, ever separated how she felt about her children. And particularly, I'm the last, she would call me her last born.
Hmm.
Particularly, she gave me everything that I needed to have. My mother was a waitress and she had an eighth grade education, but I thought she graduated from some outstanding university. because she gave me all the right ingredients to exist and to know who I was. She wanted me to accept myself. She accepted me. My sisters accepted me. And that's what I went by. It's really important that we think that our parents love us unconditionally because they give us a roof over our head. They give us. I needed to hear that. I needed to
Hmm.
hear somebody say, "You know what, Angelo, I love you, and I want the best for you." And I heard it all my life, and that was my motivation to contribute to my family, to be a part of my family, to be a part of the history and the making. My mother was a waitress, so how much money were you making? She wasn't making money to take care of four daughters and two sons. So I became at an early age a contributor to my household. At 14 years old, I gave my mother $600 a month. I used to learn. I learned how to sew. I went to the supermarket and bagged up the bags. You know, when they give you the 50 cent, they give you the dollar for bagging up the bags. Uh, it's nothing that I would not do to support my family, and that's what I think I'm trying
Hmm.
to get across at this point: family and the support of family, the love of family,
Right.
sharing that kind of message each and every single day becomes very important. And I think, especially in this time, it's important that our young people understand that they're being loved, even though I think in this time that we're in an era where they know it all. But I break it on down to them. With my nephews, with my nieces, I break it on down to them and make them become responsible for their doings, make them become responsible for their existence by talking to them. I'm not trying to be their friend. I'm trying to be their uncle. I'm trying to tell them what I had to go through so they can get through.
Hmm.
So our mentoring becomes very important. And so it's the teaching of my mother and my family that it gave me the affordability to be a conqueror, to conquer any challenge. I think that there's detours in the road. You have to learn to get around the detour. You have to learn to get under the detour. You got to win in this. And as I said earlier, it's not important about winning every race. It's just important that you stay in the race. Eventually, you got to win.
Hmm. Do you learn more from your wins or your losses?
Both, both. I think they both equal each other. I love the fact I filed bankruptcy twice in my 55 years of having double exposure. And yes, I did learn from that. I always say, if you fall, you have to understand why you fell. And if you want to get up, you got to understand what you have to do to get up. So I learned from both sides of that coin. I've experienced so many losses and so many highs in my life that I got it now at 67 years old. I got it now. And I think it's important for me to tell the next person of my trials, my tribulations, and my success. So they don't have to necessarily follow that yellow big road. They can paint another road of success for themselves based on mentorship, based on me telling them, based on maybe you telling a younger person that wants to inspire to be like you. It's our jobs to tell the story, to tell the trials and the tribulations and also the successes of it all.
Hmm. All right. So you mentioned earlier about um, your journey taking the stairs instead of the elevator. So this is a two-part question. One is um, how did you land at figuring out the direction you wanted to take in your career when it came to public relations and marketing and promotion. But then with that, um, how do you compare a lot of kids today where they feel like taking the elevator is the fast way is more important than taking the long road and learning the steps and realizing that sometimes failure is good in the long run. Let's talk about that.
You know, I started, my degree is in fashion design. And so
Hmm.
I did a lot of designing for a lot of the department stores. And I did a lot of local fashion shows in the fair in the city of Newark. And they were fundraisers. And one day, because I did these things for like 17, 18 years, there was a young lady that came to one of the shows. Her name was Camille Mtume, and it was the wife of James Mtume. She was a designer. She came in to ask me if I would do the album cover for her husband. And she said, my husband is Mtume. And, you know, back in that day and time, I didn't know who the hell Mtume it was. I looked over and said to somebody said, Angelo, juicy fruit, juicy fruit. And I go, oh, yeah, I know, yeah, all right. And I said, told her I would do it. I would do the album cover. And I did the album cover. It was an incredible album cover. And then Tume came to me once and said, if you could do all this stuff for Camille, I ain't gonna say what he exactly said, but he said, if you can do all this for Camille, why don't you come and work for me? And I said, I don't know nothing about music. He says, well, don't you think it sounds that you know more than what this fashion mess? Well, I can't tell you what he said, but more than this fashion stuff. And I said, yeah, Mtume, I'm willing to give it a try. And so he mentored me for like 8 or 9 years. I worked for him as an intern, not as a paid employee. If money came in and when money came in, he would give me money. But that wasn't the motive of me working with him. I went to the James Mtume Institute for at least 5 years, where he took me underneath his wings and taught me everything that I wanted to know. I didn't know nothing about no damn publicity. My degree was in design. So I was like, Mtume, what are you talking about? Publicity? What is that? He reached in his pocket and gave me $100. And he said, I want you to go to the newsstand. Back then there was newsstands. He said, I want you to buy 100 newspapers and come back. And when I would go up to, he had an office, we called the beat ass office. That's what we called it, where you go in there and get spanked. And I went inside of the office and came back with the newspapers. He said, okay, now go downstairs in the basement and research entertainment, and figure out the bylines, make up a list, and start calling. At that time, he was doing the soundtrack, movie score, for the first film that Oprah Winfrey ever did, which was The Native Son. That starred Oprah Winfrey and Victor Love. It was executive produced by Diane Silvers. So this was a huge opportunity for Mtume. And so I started to make my cold calls, and I sound like an idiot calling these people up because I knew nothing about it. I had to sit up and write up a bio. I knew nothing about that. I learned, and he made sure that I learned. And so when I called up the New York Times, this lady was the rudest, the nastiest lady I ever met in my life. And she was coughing. She kept coughing and coughing and coughing. So I was able to get her name, her first name and her last name, and I got the address for the New York Times. And I got up and I went to the car and I drove to the drugstore and I bought 40 packs of cough drops. I then went to the gift store, got a gift box, gifted, made it look really pretty, went to Federal Express and overnighted it to her. The next morning, she called me and she said, young man, you didn't have to send this over to me. And I said, no, I wanted to send it to you. She said, now, how can I help you? I said, I started to tell her about Mtume in the movie and the soundtrack and the whole bit. Next 2 days, a full page in the New York Times. That was my beginning of publicity. And thereafter that, there was the Daily News. It was all in the national newspapers. It was TV coverage. And so once you get through one hurdle, and the next hurdle, I began to enjoy what I was doing. And I began to, I could steady this one out. And 55 years later, I enjoy publicity. But it was never, ever my goal to be a publicist. And when young people come my way and they want help and they want my assistance, but they don't want to listen, I tell them, I said, you see that door? The door you came in is the same damn door you can go out of. If you know it all, you should not want to intern with me. And I said, you got to stop listen. It's not about the money. It's about you learning so that you can make the kind of money that you set yourself to make. You got to stop and just listen. Don't be so ambitious. Be ambitious. Be a
Mm-hmm.
contributor. Put something at the table. Lay down some kind of foundation for yourself. But don't come into a situation knowing it all. You can't know it all. We must understand that mentorship is important. And you got to learn. And you got to read. And you have to understand what it's all about. It's just not about sitting in the room, listening to everybody talk about strategies and you're making no contribution. Take your time to understand what the project is about. What do you think that can happen? And if you're young and you're 22 and you're 23 years old, you have a clear understanding of what is going on in the outside of the industry to the consumer. You know the streets. You know what they like. You know what they dislike. You know how to come at it. Contribute something. And when you go to contribute something, there's a listening ear. And if there's a listening ear, they take you in and they want to teach you more because now you're contributing something.
Right.
Did I answer your
Wow.
questions?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think this conversation is basically just setting you up and letting you letting you fly whatever direction.
Okay, cool.
I mean, yeah. So
Cool.
it's all good. I mean, so like just continuing with double exposure, and after learning under the tutelage of James and Tume, like what was next? Like
The
how did you go from one
next,
step to two to four and
well, the next thing for me was how I was going to prepare myself to leave in Tume.
mm-hmm,
That was my next step because he taught me so much. I was the nanny. I was everything underneath the sun for Mtume, and Mtume was everything for me. He was the father that I never had. He taught me, and I know he genuinely loved me, and I fell in love with his family. So it's very hard to leave and to start my own business. And when I did, there was a separation, of no conversations between him and I for about a year or two. But every time that I would do an interview, every time that I was somebody, I always mentioned James and Tume to this day. And I started, it was so funny. I went to work for a record company, still dealing with double exposure in the basement. I went to work for Chrysalis Records. And I
mm-hmm,
went in as a director of publicity in the Black music division. Back in that day and time, you did not go through, you could not make a contribution to the pop side. You was strictly the Black side. Everything was separate. Budgets were separate. Everything was separate. Black artists did not get what the mainstream artists got. But I went in as the director of publicity. And some of the people that I handled, one of the acts that I handled, I'm very proud of, which was Gangstar. Um, had a great, great relationship with both of them. Premier and I are still very good friends to this day. He was a listener.
right,
He was a listener. And I would tell him the rights and the wrongs of how to deal with people who don't look like you or I, and how you're going to win in this game. And greatly, every time I see him, he tells me about the importance of my contribution to his life. I think it's just really important that you take the time to want to educate these young people, even though they think that they know it all. I just break it
mm-hmm,
down. I am so transparent and so direct. It's really ridiculous. But I just remember when I was in high school, I never understood what those teachers were saying. But when I got out of high school, I remembered everything that they said. And I think that's what happened with Gangstar, them just understanding the importance of my contribution to them, and to see Premier do what he's doing at this stage of the game. I'm humbled and I'm very, very thankful that I had the opportunity to be a part of his career. So I started there, and then While I was doing that, I met this gentleman by the name of Doug Breitbart, which was a lawyer, and they told me he had an office on 7th Avenue. And that if I wanted a cubicle, and that's what it was, a cubicle, I was welcome to it. And so I took the cubicle, I left Chrysalis Records, and I began in the cubicle, me and an intern. Next door at 857th Avenue, I'm walking by and I see this sign that says 2,500 square foot. So it was a whole floor. And I said, oh, this, and I looked in there. It was a restaurant on the first floor, and then it was my office. And I said, I can't go up in here. This white people are not going to allow me in this building. So I called my white lawyer, who was Italian, and I said, I need you to come up here now, Ed. His name was Ed Toptani. I said, I need for you to come up now and look at the space and take some little pictures for me. It was a whole floor. It was 3 bathrooms. It was a kitchen. It was all the one would ever want. And I took the space. I didn't have no money. I didn't have a damn dime. I didn't have a penny. Do you understand what I tell you? I had no money, but I wanted that space. And I believed that I claimed my victory. So we went to sign the lease. And Ed said, Angelo, do you have the kind of money? I said, I don't have a damn dime. This guy called to me from Switzerland. And he said to me, Angelo, man, I'm giving you a Jamaican accent. It should be a Swedish accent. But anyway, I'm looking for some music. But I want music from leading artists. I said, are you familiar with Full Force? Oh, I love Full Force. I love Full Force. Now you got to remember, I got no money. So I said, I put him on hold. And I called Anthony. I called Anthony. I said, yo, man, I got this man on the phone from Sweden. You guys got any music over there? He said, yeah, I got everything. We got records over here. I said, there's a God. So I tied the calls. They made the deal. Gave him a record. I don't know what kind of money they gave them, but I know I got $35,000 for me. Right?
Okay.
And I said to the man, y'all need to give me my money now. Y'all can do y'all business on your end, but I need my money now, like tomorrow morning, in a wire. So I took the money that they gave me, the $35,000, and I was able to get the lease done. And I took the lease out for maybe, I think it was 8 months. So the owner never met me. He's Italian. My birth name is Angelo Antonio Ellerbee. So all he saw was Angelo Antonio. So he thought he was renting this space to this white man that was Italian.
Right.
So he came upstairs to meet me after everything was signed. And I made sure that it was like for 8 months, 9 months, a year or something. Because I know as soon as he saw me, he would want to put me out. So he went to the reception. He says, I really want to meet, the owner. I want to meet Angelo Antonio. Well, when this white man came through that door and saw me sitting in that chair, he turned blue-black. And I said, what's the matter, sir? I said, this is Angelo. It's such a pleasure meeting. And I went to shake his hand all of the bit. And he just was like full of disgust. But anyway, we moved into this space. I hired the people. Everything was really difficult is when you have no money. But then when you claim your victory and you understand that this is what you want to do, it seems to come. And so with the 35, I took care of the rent, I think we started out with 4 or 5 people. Then it went up to 19 people that worked there. That was my humble beginning, man. It's always been a hustle. And the thing that I knew that was really important for me was image and style. That's how I was going to get through. That's how I was going to get over. I used myself as the example, and I made my employees a replica of me. The girls had to be sharp. They had to keep a black dress and heels in my closet because we never knew where we were going to be invited at. The guys, the same thing. You couldn't come into my office. No, we were on 7th Avenue. We were the only black people on 7th Avenue, the only black company. So we had to come polished and prepared to win. And I took no nonsense. I took absolutely no nonsense because I was not going back to my mother's basement. So everybody had to be prepared to win. And I would go in and give classes each and every day for the first 2 or 3 months that they were there. So they would become accustomed to my policy and my procedures. And thus, that was the birth of Double Exposure on 7th Avenue for 25 years.
Dr. Todd McLean provides periodontal and dental implant services in 2 convenient locations. They offer over a decade of experience treating patients, and appointments can even be scheduled in the evenings, weekends, or early mornings. Give them a call in Chapel Hill at 919-537-9774 or in Durham at 919-484-8338, or visit them online at gumsandimplants.org.
Yeah, so like one lesson that I've always lived by, and I share with others, and I'm kind of getting the sense that you live by this as well, is you never squander opportunities.
No.
And each opportunity propels you into areas that you never imagined, but the hard work has to follow that in order to spawn success.
Absolutely, man. If you get an opportunity, it's almost like a lemon. If you get a lemon, you're supposed to make everything you can make from that lemon. Lemonade, lemon pie, whatever it is. If you get an opportunity, you got to make it work for you. And you got to put your best foot forward, because these people don't know who you are. You have no credibility with them. So I used to get together with my 19 people, and I would talk to them and I would influence them that we got to make this work. And the only way we're going to make it work is a team. And so everybody had a particular category of expertise that I drilled them in and trained them for. There was somebody in hip hop. There was somebody in video. There was somebody in marketing. There was somebody in R&B, urban. So when we went to go do a itinerary, and the people would say, "Well, how could you get 20 interviews?" And we just started, because they didn't understand the science of what I had pulled together. And so you would get 19 interviews, and they would go, "How did you do that? You didn't even have a bio." I said, "Research. You sent me the music. I got it. I send it out. And this is the responses." I never look back. I look forward. And I take every particular opportunity as a gift from God, particularly when I knew that I had a payroll that I had to meet every single week. And if I didn't deliver for my clients, I couldn't deliver for my employees. So I took my mother's ways of doing things in the early stages of my life, which she said everybody had to be a contributor. I took the same formula and said to each and every single employee of mine, you got to be a contributor. If you're not going to be a contributor, I don't need you here. And they would just say to me, "Oh, Mr. Ellerbee, this music is whack. Oh, I ain't like this." I said, "Well, let me tell you something. Let me ask you something. Are you going to buy the record? Are you going to go to the store and buy the record? You ain't going to buy a damn thing, are you? So like it, to learn to like it, listen to it. You ain't here to like it. You're here to make a placement with it and to become familiar with it." I never listened to music because I never said, I don't sell music. I sell talent. So my relationship with my client became very important to me. I want to know the client. I don't need to listen to your music. I don't need to read your bio. I want to talk to your mother. I want to talk to your sisters. I want to talk to, that's my bio. Because then it's here. I don't have to read it. Because, bios are what they are. Everybody wants to impress somebody in the bio. but I want to talk to the everyday people that come in your life, that they can tell me about you. Tell me
Right.
how you were dealing with and what you dealt with. What colors you like. I want to know all of that on a one-on-one. I don't want to read it. That's just how
Yeah.
that's
So,
my formula.
uh-huh. Well, I definitely want to delve into this formula because, I mean, there's plenty of examples of the formula working. So, Mary J. Blige, I remember when she first came out in the industry, and it was kind of clear that she was kind of, closed off and, was in her shell and didn't really like to do interviews. And I think there were stories of her getting into um, arguments and altercations, with people in the media.
Yeah.
Just talk about the work that you did in order to bring to light the Mary that we see now.
I
Like,
think
talk about that relationship.
what I do is not, as I said, is not a cup of instant coffee. It's brewed coffee. It comes later. And my first meeting with Mary, as I also said in early conversation, I had the whole floor, the whole second floor. So when the elevator opens, you're in my office. And I was standing there because she was an hour late. And I had this craving for a pastrami sandwich from the Carnegie Deli. And she came there an hour late. So she said, "Is Angelo here?" And I looked around. I said, "No, Angelo's not here, but Mr. Ellerbee's here." And she goes, "Well, whatever." I said, "No, it's not whatever. I'm Angelo Ellerbee, and you're 1 hour late, and I'm going downstairs to have my lunch. We can try this again tomorrow. Brick City, Newark, Yonkers. We're not doing this." So she had this big old bodyguard. I'm like, "Yeah, okay." I said, "So why don't we try this again tomorrow?" She said, "Okay." I went downstairs, I went to Carnegie Deli, and she went wherever she needed to go. The next day, she was 2 hours early. Early. How you start is how you finish. And we went into my office and we had a 2.5 hour session for 17 weeks. And we became very acquainted with one another. It was almost a joy and a pleasure to look for her to come through the doors. And we were very open with each other about life, growing up in Yonkers, growing up in Newark, her love for her father, the things that she was going through, the things that I was going through. So we were sitting there, and my receptionist knew never ever to disturb me when I'm in a session. But when my mother calls, she was going to put me through. My mother was going to get through. So my
Mm-hmm.
mother called. I raised my three. We all raised my nephews. Three of my nephews. My sister was a drug addict, so we had the responsibilities as our brothers and sisters to raise her children. That was my mother. So my mother called me to tell me that my nephew had got shot 9 times in the back, and that he didn't make it. And I said, "Okay, I'm gonna call you back, Mom, and I'll be there." She said, "You need to come home now." I said, "Okay." So Mary said to me, she said, "Why don't you listen to people's music?" I said, "Because I don't sell music." She said, "Do me a favor, would you listen to this song?" And it was, "If you could see what I see," and I'm go, "Okay." And then a tear came down my eyes. She looked at me, she said, "What's up with you?" And I went to tell her what happened. She said, "So why are you still sitting here?" I said, "Because I made a commitment to you. I'm going to finish doing what I'm doing without sounding cold. My son, my nephew is gone. You're not." And we continued. And her next visit was like, it was just like refreshing because
Mm-hmm.
I got a chance to see her sensitive side and she got a chance to see my sensitive side. And so it made it very, very easy for us to further communicate and become partners. and for me to help her. She used to hate watching our old interviews. You know, the old interviews was she was sitting in the chair, blah, 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 blah. Refreshing to me is that this is a girl that came through my office door not wanting to be there, but was mandated for her to come to me. She is an Oscar nominated actress. It's not about instant. It's about putting in the time. It's not about drinking that instant coffee. It's about that brew coffee. And I am just so pleased and so proud of her to see where she's at today.
Right. Would you say that another, I guess, key to your formula, your winning formula, is that you see a little bit of yourself in the people that you work with?
If not myself, my family members, my sisters, my brothers, my cousins, yeah. And then I also see where they didn't get the kind of love from mothers or fathers, and I become a substitute. I think people just want to be loved and want to be cared for and want to be guided, and I think those are some of the things that I do. We try to establish love and guidance and helping them. That's the most important thing. But as I say to them, it's important that you take a minute and you listen. I'm not going to lead you wrong. And if there's something that I can't answer for you, I'm going to find someone that can make the difference for you and answer the question. But you got to be a little transparent, and you got to tell me. You can't come to me and start lying. Don't lie to me. Tell me the truth. Because if you tell me one lie, you're going to tell another lie to cover your ass. Tell me the truth so we don't have to do that. And then we're on one page. We start to read the book together and turn the pages together. We're on the same page.
Right. So on the opposite end of Mary, I mean, another Yonkers legend.
It's DMX.
The late great Earl Simmons. So he doesn't seem to come across as the type that'll, hold his tongue. Like whatever he's thinking, he's going to express. How much of a challenge is that?
That was a challenge. It really was a challenge. But you know what? I think it's also taking time out to understand who you're working with. And you have to take the time out to know him. You have to take the time out to know him as his mother and his wife and his children and all those people who are around him, because they can tell you what the real deal is. And somebody said to me, "Are you sure this is what you want to do?" I said, yeah, let's try it and see what happens. So for the first 2 years, his uncle, Ray, they call him Uncle Ray. I met with Uncle Ray, and he interviewed me. And the next time I met, it was with Uncle Ray and X. We were standing outside. As we were standing outside, he was smoking the joint. And he was talking to me. He said, blah, 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 da, 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 da. And he said to me, "Smoke this joint with me." And I was like, "Yo, dog, I don't smoke." He goes, "You don't?" I said, "No, I don't." He said, "Just take one puff." I did. Yeah, I ain't gonna sit here and tell you no lie. And then we just started talking. I'm being honest with you. I did. Right. We set up and we started talking. He was telling me about his mother and he telling me about his father and his home life and the whole other bit. And I said, wow. And then I started to find out about his production deal with Rough Riders and Baba. Wow. How he was really raised himself from 14 years old to 20 years old. Then he got into somewhat of his addictions and wow. Then he got into God. He started to tell me about God being his best friend. God who supplies his every needs. God who is his salvation. So we went on and on and on and on. Now I'm understanding what I'm dealing with. And we used to do a thing of cussing each other out. We did that a lot. And then when he would get so defiant, I would say to him, "Hey, man, did you pray today?" And he would go, "Yo, man, I didn't pray today." I would say, "Come, let's go pray." That was the calming pill of everything. He really loved God. He was a very staunch believer in the Word of God, in the message of the Bible. And no one knows that innocent side of X. X gave so much money to churches, to youth centers, each and every single year. So every time somebody tells me something negative about Earl, I have to say to them, this is what he did for his community. This is what he did for the world. He gave a lot. He gave a whole lot unconditionally. And it's all about, he's asked me every week, "Hey, Angelo, did you pay my tithes?" And I would go, "Yeah, Earl, I paid your tithes." That's what he was concerned with. He was concerned with making sure that his contributions were made. So this persona that you saw was real, but there was another side that I got a chance to know and I got a chance to appreciate. And I appreciate the love of God that he had in his soul. And that prayer that he used to do, it was so very real. It was so very real. So yeah, a lot of times it go cuckoo for Cocoa Pops, but he brings it back. He used to bring it back in. And it's just unfortunate that one has to go and turn to another end in order for people to see the worth of what his contributions were.
Right. So did you know Earl before I guess building a relationship with Rough Riders, or was it the other way around?
It was the other way around. I knew Earl first, and then I got the opportunity of meeting the family of Rough Riders. It was this wonderful girl by the name of Keisha Gibbs, who was like really she was like the manager of the organization, and she was just really wonderful. And she spent time with me maybe every Friday, telling me what the deal was and da 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 da. I didn't just represent Earl. I was his president of his company called Bloodline. He had a production company through a Def Jam, and so I was responsible for the 14 people that he had signed to his label. But yeah, I got a real good understanding of his relationships with Rough Riders, his relationships with the various lawyers and people that he had hired. So yeah, it was an experience that I will never forget. One that I applaud because I got the opportunities to work on major motion pictures. I got the opportunities to take the title on as producer, associate producer. So yeah, man, Earl gave a lot to me. He gave a lot to me while we would argue, fuss and fight. He took care of his family, and that's what I have to say with regards to Earl. It was challenging, but life is too, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I get a chance to say to you today and to your followers the wonders of him. He was a wonderful man.
Yeah, it was disappointing because like after I interviewed Wah, I think it was about a month and a half before Earl passed away, and of course he had the album that was going to be coming out, later that spring or summer, and that interview was going to happen with me and X, and then he passed away, and it was just like,
Yeah.
because I just know, like, you can tell when you're talking to someone that's authentic, and like it's 100% authenticity with him at all times. So
Oh, it was. You may not want to hear what he had to say. Maybe he didn't deliver it the way you wanted it to be delivered, but you got it.
right.
Yeah, he was an awesome guy. I think you have to take the good and the bad and the ugly and make it fit and work for you. And that's what I did.
Right.
And no, he didn't take any
All right.
art development classes.
I didn't get that sense at all. I mean, even if you booked him for it, I don't think he would have shown up.
Nah, buddy, no, that wasn't getting that. And you know, it's really ironic. So many times I had to learn the course of how to deal with him. I know we were doing an album release or something. These people came all from all sorts of countries to interview him, and he never showed up. Some people had phoners, and at one point I had his voice down to a 9. I did the
You did interviews for him.
I absolutely did. Absolutely did.
Let me hear it. Let me hear a little X. Let me hear a little X now.
I can't get it to you now. As a mind, it's like, you want your check this week? Yeah, I used to get up there, and then they would I would tell them to send me the questions, and I would write in, talk like him in my writing.
Oh, goodness.
But being transparent, yeah. Those were my survival skills.
Right.
Now, if they looked at me, that means that's a horse of a different color. But, he would do what sometimes he would do what he said he was going to do. And other times the things would go in other direction.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, it was challenging. Yeah. But rewarding.
Right.
But rewarding.
All right. So I was just in New York Memorial Day weekend. Caught the Broadway musical, Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And, obviously, amazing work by the cast, the writers, directors, the whole 9.
Mm-hmm.
And, Michael Jackson, is an enigma to a lot of people. You've worked with him.
Yes.
Just talk about who Michael was. And, obviously his work ethic was second to none, and just his love for people. So just give us a glimpse into the world of Michael Jackson.
To be so very honest with you, I worked for him for about maybe 2 years. I met him maybe 3 times.
Wow.
I remember one time him calling the office. It was so funny. And I answered the phone. So he says, "This is Michael Jackson to speak to Angelo." I go, "Who's on this phone with this bullshit?" And I heard him laugh. I hung up because I thought it was somebody playing a joke. He called back, and I answered again. And he says, "Is this Mr. Ellerbee?" I said, "Yeah, who is this?" He says, "It's Michael Jackson." Then I go, "Okay, sing me a song." And then he broke down. He said, "No, it's really me." Da, 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 da. And then we worked on a project together. It was during the time that they were taking him to the fence, if you understand what I'm saying. And I did a lot of damage control. And we had created this platform for him with this guy named Vince Ferguson, who created this award show called Children's Choice Awards. And my idea was to bring, along with Vince, was to bring children. I always say go back to the teen of the beginning of the accident. So we brought together, I think we wound up honoring the governor's wife and some local politicians. I really wanted them to come back to the scene of the accident so that you can see the love that children have for him. And we created this thing around the corner from my office, City Center. And I invited press all over the world. The auditorium was jam-packed. And I got a call from someone that says, "Can you go around back?" And I said, "Sure, I can go around back at City Center." So I went out around back, and there was a garbage truck there. It's like, why am I standing here in front of a garbage truck? Then I saw this person get out with this white jumpsuit on and this mask. So I go, the hell? And then he says, "This is my first meeting." He goes, "Mr. Ellerbee?" And I go, "Yeah." Then he took up all the stuff, and I said, "Oh, Mr. Jackson." He says, "No, you could call me Michael." That was my first meeting, and he was the nicest, cordial, so cordial. So the kids did not know that he was coming there. So we had to have about maybe 1,500 kids, with the rest of it being filled in from just spectators. When this man came on the stage, it was like the parting of the seas. Kids loved him. We got all the media coverage that we ever wanted to get. That was, and I think I stayed on for another 6 or 7 months. And it was just a wonderful opportunity. I got that three times to talk to him and meet him. So I can't really expound on that. It really wasn't a relationship. It was an opportunity that that I had with him. And at that time, it was his, I think he was Bob. I don't remember Bob's last name. It was a VP. And that was his VP of publicity. And then they would just hire out publicity firms very much like mine to oversee and supervise and or manage. And that's what it was like. But it was an experience that I will never, ever forget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, this has been an amazing year when it comes to Double Exposure and the clients that you work with. And I neglected to mention his name in the intro. You know, Robert Cool Bell and Cool in the Gang getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The success of Dionne Warwick, Melba Moore getting her Hollywood Walk of Fame. Mary also getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yes.
So, I mean, I had this question that, I was like, that's the first question I wanted to ask Mr. Ellerbee. And it's like, when you deal with these clients, is it easier to deal with an artist like at the stage of Mary J. when you met her that was naive and just coming out versus the
I'll take him as
mega popular successful Michael Jackson,
I'll take him
or a diva?
I take him as they come. I'm not impressed with your status. I'm not impressed with anyone's. I don't glory over them or worship them. I only worship God. I don't worship them. They're clients, and I treat them accordingly. And if they come to me, I mean, if you're young and you're coming into the business, I think you're going to listen a little bit more. But if you're that veteran artist that's coming to me, you're coming to me for a reason and a purpose, right? If you're coming for a reason and a purpose, and that's all good too. And I just don't mix. I take you as you are. I don't care if you sold 500 million records or if you sold one record. It's the same treatment that you're going to get.
Right. All right. So, throughout your career, you've emphasized the importance of integrity. How do you maintain this principle in a highly competitive and cutthroat industry?
I'm romantically in love with Angelo Ellerbee. I don't ever want to go backwards. I don't ever want to go back to my mother's basement. She taught me the importance of integrity and to be open and honest with people. That's what I move by. That's what I go by. That's what it's going to be. When I have to sit up here and lie to you and tell you I can do this no. People say, well, what do I get for you get me. And if I'm not enough, and if you can't take my allegiance to your project, then we got a problem. I don't take people's money and not be able to produce. And if it's difficult, I tell them this is like this ain't instant coffee. It's going to take a minute, especially for young artists. You got to make these people, these journalists, believers in your artist. They don't know your artist from a can of wet paint. So you got to give it time. And white folks don't do it no better than I do it. There's a competition in terms of what is Black publicists and white publicists. There's a competition. And we all want to go jump to that side as opposed to trusting in our own community. Got a problem with it.
Right. Um, what's something about you that people would find most surprising?
That I'm a love of God. I have a foul mouth, but I love me some Lord. I love the Lord. I think that people would
Right.
be surprised to find out that I've lasted as long as I've lasted because of the love of God, because of my belief in God and my faith in God. If you take the word friend and split it in the middle, you got an E-N-D, an end of a friend. I don't never, ever, ever have to question the loyalty, the faith in my God. With my friends and people, so-called friends, and people that I know, question mark. Um, I think the demons come in disguises. They come as friends, they come as family members, they come as managers, they come as agents, they come in disguises. And so I trust in the man upstairs. And I think he
Mm-hmm.
gives me the insightfulness to be able to detect and understand who's going to do what they say they're going to do and who's going to be loyal to me.
Right. What do you see when you look in a mirror?
I see an old ass man. No, but I see a brother that's still out here trying to do what he can do to enrich
Mm-hmm.
lives, to give new paths, new directions, and support and encouragement. So important to me that people are encouraged in their flights and that they stay original and that they don't try to copy someone, that they become their own leaders and develop their own teams and seeing their dreams to its reality. I see all of that when I look in the mirror.
Mm-hmm. So, like at this stage of your career, like, do you find yourself spending more time looking forward when it comes to upcoming projects or adventures, or
No,
looking back at your accomplishments?
no, because that money is spent, so I can't get it back. I'm looking
Right.
forward. And my direction now is film and movies and TV. I'm looking to start a
Mm-hmm.
production company that will fill the void in the absence for some of the things that I want to do personally and some of the things that I think some of my clients should be doing. And so I'm starting a production company. That's my goal at this
Right. Okay. So you were telling me pre-interview about BET reaching out to you. Like, just
point.
shed some further light on that.
Well, I'm going to share as much light as I can share. So there's
Uh
two
huh.
wonderful, wonderful ladies who called me up. I think my office called them, and then they called back, and we went to explore. So many years ago, 20th Century Fox brought my life story, but it was a nightmare. They had me falling in love with Mary and the Lord of the Bid, so that would have been the funniest thing on the face of this earth. And I never wanted to. I don't believe in buffoonery, so it got
Mm-hmm.
scrapped. So when these people start to talk to me about being a messenger in the music and entertainment industry and being a mentor, they wanted to spotlight my book, Before I Let You Go, this particular book. But then today, we cemented a starting point and direction for a documentary and a series. And that's what we're working on now. So the special will come first, the documentary, and then the TV series. So I'm excited about it. Those are the ventures
Mm-hmm.
that I get excited about.
Right.
That's what's
All
going
right.
on.
So that's great. That's amazing. We definitely need, more stories from, the pillars of the culture, such as yourself. Um, when I interviewed Dave Woolley, another one of, the clients that I got from you, I
Mhm.
had, I had compared him to Clarence Avant,
Really?
and I also put you in that ballpark as well.
I'm flattered because I think he was such a giant, such a giant, such a, we all try to be tough and bop, 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 but a heart of gold. A wonderful, wonderful man. As I look at Barry Gordy as my mentor, and James Mtume is my first, but Gordy was smart. He was really smart in marketing and packaging and doing what he needed to do to make his artists acceptable in white America. I applaud his direction, his energy, and his insightfulness. Wonderful, really wonderful. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Clarence Avon is A-okay with me.
Right. What's the most valuable lesson you've received from anyone, like either in the industry or outside of it, and who gave it to you?
It was James Mtume. He says, Angelo, you're deliciously arrogant. And I go, what? And he said, I took you on because you exemplified confidence and you demonstrated a work ethic. And I think it's delicious when somebody can come to me with those two steps. That tells me that they're willing to learn. They're willing to get to the next level. And I think that was the strongest, he was the strongest example for me. And him saying that I was deliciously arrogant and then defining it was very, very, very important to me. Very important to me. Because it was like he was sanctioning me. And I was talking to his son a couple of days ago, Faul, and he is just the mirror of his father. And he was talking to me, and it was sounding like I was talking to Mtume. And Mtume is and always will be in my heart because he did so much for me. He did so much for me.
Right. I mean, where did that, I guess, delicious arrogance come from? Because, like you said, you didn't have anything when it came to like finances, and your mother was working to support 6. Like, where did that arrogance come from?
Came from me. Once I was able to demonstrate success and understand what it was, what fashion shows and people were admiring what my abilities was and going to record companies. And at a very early age, establishing myself as a designer, got a little comfortable with that. And I just wanted to, and it was for me, it wasn't being arrogant. For me, it was accomplishing what I set out to accomplish. How you received it as Mtume did, I had nothing to do with that. I'm very confident. I was very confident when I began, and I had nothing. And those were the things that got me through the doors when I had to go into meetings or when I was trying to get a client. If you're not confident, then how are they going to believe in you? If you can't sell it, then how the hell? Why they want to hire you if you sitting up there meek? Yes, I'm Angelo Ellerbee. Yes, and this is what I do. And I look you in your eyes, and I simply say, we can do this together. I don't make promises. The only promise I make is me. I can tell you that I'm going to do the work. And how I do that now, man, is that there's like 14 people on roster now, every day out of the week, 2 and 3 conference calls. And I sit back and agendas so they can understand what is happening with them and for them. And that's the way you do it. So I don't never have to lie. I want my clients to be a part of their development and a part of their meetings. And so that they would understand what it is, what's being done for them. So it's the James Mtume way for me.
Right. All right. So as we prepare to close, feel free to plug the book before I let you go, and where we can go to pre-order it, or wait until August to get it.
Oh, no. Don't wait till August to get it. We're trying to do New York. So yeah, you can go to @Double XXposure NYC. That's on every platform from my social media standpoints, FaceTime, Instagram, LinkedIn. Believe it or not, I'm on TikTok. So yeah, they can go and that's where they can get the book at. Or they can go through the publisher, which is HOVpub.com. HOVpub.com.
All right. So, like I said, Mr. Ellerbee, I mean, this has been a pleasure. I've been wanting to do this for years. I mean, you've been such a help to getting my brand off the ground. I've heard in countless conversations with some of your clients how some of them didn't have the money that you charge, and you would say, "Don't worry about it. We'll work it out eventually."
Yeah.
So, I mean, just the grace and the fatherly figure that you are. Like, we thank you. I thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you. I just appreciate seeing someone like you doing what you're doing. And if I can be a contributor to that, I've done my part.
Well,
so I salute you.
Well, I'm going to continue to, pay it forward. However I can help
Thank you.
the next person, I will. And I'll continue to live fearless and never squander opportunities.
There you go.
Right.
I got to you today. Thank you. Absolutely, man.
All right. So, Angelo Ellerbee, before I let you go, president of Double Exposure, the man behind so many legends, Mary J, DMX, Fool in the Gang, Dionne Warwick, who else off the top of my head? Stetsasonic, Gangstar.
There you go. Eric B.
Eric B. Oh, Eric B. too?
Yeah, more Eric B. than Rakim. Big Daddy Kane. Okay, there's a list. And then don't forget the Jamaican community. There was
Patra,
Shabba Ranks, Bounty Killer, Cobra. Was it Damian Marley? I think it goes now by another name. Stella Marley. Yeah, it's Damon's mother. It's a lot there, buddy. It's been 50-some years, so it would be a lot there.
Yeah, you've definitely taken care of a lot of the artists that we love and adore. And I'm glad that you're getting your flowers. I can't wait for BET to do this documentary on you, and I'm sure it's going to be no filters. And
it will.
And then when that comes out, we have to have another conversation so we can really dig into it. Because I don't want to keep you too long, but I still wanted this to last, good hour because the story needed to be told.
I appreciate you. I appreciate it, and thank you, LeTroy, a great deal.
All right. So for Stop, Look, and Listen, I'm your host, LeTroy Gardner. See you next week. Peace and blessings.